Okay, Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Okay, we're continuing with, let us have the sincere intentions, lillahi ta'ala. We're continuing with the prohibited sellings under the contracts chapter, inshallah. And today we're talking about discouraging the sale after being agreed on a price. So, among the prohibited dealings is for one to discourage the buyer or seller from conducting a selling contract or a buying contract after both sides, so the seller and the buyer, agree on a price. Which means if someone wants to buy something and finds a seller, so it tells this person, how much do you want as a price for this thing? And the seller says such and such. He tells them, okay, this is a good price for me, I'll take it. But until now, they did not do a contract. If a third person comes and tells a buyer, do not buy from him, I will sell a similar item to you for a price that is less. Or he tells the seller, do not sell to him, I will buy it from you, this item, for a higher price, for example, then this is sinful. This is a sin. Now, if he does that before they agree on a price, this is not haram. This is permissible, like they do at auctions. Al-Bukhari narrated from the Prophet ﷺ that he prohibited this kind of transaction. This is prohibited because it hurts the other person. Likewise, the same principle applies to the contract of hiring or renting, or the contract of borrowing an item. If we agree together for you to lend me an item, let's say a book, and then a third party interferes and tells you, don't lend it to this person, lend it to me, I'll protect it better, or something like that, the same judgment applies. It's haram. Now, if two traders compete about the prices, for example, if one of them sells the item that he has for $10 and the other sells them for $9, just doing that is not haram. Now, if he lowers his price so the customers don't go to his competitors' stores with this intention, it would be disliked. In the past, it was a usual thing that you go to buy something from the marketplace and the seller would tell you, today I sold some items. My neighbor did not. He has the same item that you are asking for, to go buy from him. So I didn't know that, but subhanAllah, how many things have changed. And obviously most people don't do that these days. Now, if the selling contract takes place, but they still have the choice to breach the contract. So the buyer and seller, for example, they conducted the contract, but they are still in the same session. So as long as they are in the same session, each one among them can break the contract. If a third party comes and tells the buyer, breach the contract, I will sell it, or I would sell a similar item to you for a lower price, or he tells the seller, breach a contract, I will buy the same item from you for a higher price. In this case, it is sinful, and the sin is stronger than the first case. Another example is if they make the contract and they agree for a period of choice. So let's say this is a period of 3 days or less, in which everyone among them can breach the contract. This is permissible if they agree for 3 days or less. So if they do that, and then during this period, a third party goes to any of them and tells them, "Hey, breach the contract. I will buy it from you for more, or I will sell this item for you for less." This is prohibited. This is more sinful than telling them not to sell or not to buy after they agreed on a price. This is prohibited because of the harm. If he gives permission, then no harm is done to him. Right? So, for example, if I sell something to another person and a third person comes and tells me, you have the choice to breach a contract. Do you accept that I offer this similar item to the seller for a lower price? And if I say yes, go ahead, I don't mind, then if he does it, it would not be sinful. And this is a general statement. Now, in some cases, he is not entitled to give him the permission. So, for example, in the case where the guardian is managing the money of the belongings of the child, and there is no benefit for the child in breaching the contract. In this case, he does not give permission to someone else to offer more money, for example, because he needs to observe the benefit of the child in this case. It is not his own opinion that counts. What counts is what is better for the child. Among the prohibited matters is for one to monopolize food. It means if someone buys the food, and to be more precise, if someone buys the staple food, and even so, to be more precise, when people are in need, um, when people are in need to what he buys and the prices are high. So if those two conditions are there and he buys a staple food to hold it so the prices get higher and sell it, this person is sinful in this case. Okay, so there are two conditions here. When people are in need of it, this food, the staple food, and the prices are high. And he buys the staple food to hold it so the prices get higher and then he sells it. This person is sinful. So we are not talking about clothes, we're not talking about gas, we're not talking about wood, we are talking about the staple food. So we are not talking about apples, for examples, tomatoes, pears. We are not talking about that. We are talking about the staple food. If someone buys it when the prices are high and the people need it, um, and he holds on to it so that the price becomes higher to sell it, this is prohibited. Now, if you buy something when the prices are low and holds it waiting until the prices get higher, this is not prohibited. This is not monopoly that we're talking about, at least not the prohibited one. Our talk is also about what one buys. So if he has a farm and he harvests the field and he keeps it waiting for the prices to get higher to sell it, he's not sinful. Okay, so we are talking about buying something and then holding it. So likewise, if someone buys a staple food when the prices are high and the people are in need of it, to hold it for himself and his family. So they use it not to sell it later for a higher price. This is not sinful. Now, if someone is holding a staple food, let's say he harvests his field, he has wheat, he is holding it. We say that this is not haram. But if at a moment the people become in a great necessity for what he has, and he does not want to sell it, then the judge forces him to do that. He tells him, keep for yourself and those whom you are obligated to support. So keep for yourself and them what you need for a year, and what is excess of that, you have to sell it. You cannot hold it. The people are in a great need. It's a necessity for them, a great necessity. So go ahead and sell it. So the judges forces him to sell it. This is what the prohibited monopoly is in the Shafi'i school. Some of the Shafi'i scholars said that everything that is considered a general need for the people is treated like the staple food. According to the saying, for example, the gas that you need for your car is included. But what is famous is the prohibited monopoly for the food. So among the prohibited transactions is for one to offer a price for something higher than the market price to make another person believe that this item has a higher market price than what it is. For example, I go to buy something from a store and the market price is $10 for that thing. Another person comes to the seller and offers $11 or $12 in front of me with the purpose that I think that the market price of this item is $11 or 12. In this case, he is sinful. So some people in auctions, they do this. They have an agreement with the one who sells to offer higher prices to mislead the people, to make them think that what they are selling deserves a higher price when truly it does not. In this case, this is haram. Similar to this matter is to lie in praising an item, so the buyer buys it. This is haram. Also, among the prohibited actions is to separate the woman slave from a child who is not yet mumayyiz, so from the child who did not attain the age of mental discrimination. For example, a person owns a slave woman and the child is not yet at the age of mental discrimination. It's prohibited for him to sell the slave woman without her child, or the child without his mother, because this child is still in need of his mother. It is narrated in the hadith that the one who separates a mother from her child, like in the way that we mentioned, Allah will separate him from his beloved ones on the Day of Judgment. So this does not only apply to human beings. Also, one does not separate between a cow and a calf that is, still in need, between a sheep and a lamb that still needs its mother. So it's not only between the human beings. This also applies for animals. So, among the prohibited matters is for one to cheat when one is measuring or to lie. For example, he would weigh something to sell it to you, and he tells you the weight of this thing is 50 pounds, for example. Each one is for such amount. The sum would be such and such, while truly it's 45 and not 50 pounds. When he sells, he uses a balance that gives you a less quantity for a bigger number. So it gives you as if it's 50 pounds when it's truly 45. Or when he buys, he uses to measure by volume, a precise measurement. But when he sells, he uses an instrument that gives less volume, claiming that it is the same volume with which that he bought. So let's say he claims that this is 1 liter, while truly it's 4/5 of a liter. He sells you a quantity um, that is 5 liters, while truly it's 4 liters, right? So all of this is prohibited in the religion. So likewise, some people, when they measure materials to sell, they don't extend their arms fully to measure. I think that's what they used to do back in the day, or when they're selling like yarn or material, right? So they bend the elbow. So actually, they claim that they are giving you, let's say, 10 full yards, while truly they are giving you 9.5 or 9, and all of that is prohibited. Among the prohibited transactions is what we mentioned before, for one to give a loan to another person and to make it a condition on him that he buys from him something else with a higher price. And this is a kind of riba, as we mentioned previously. Likewise, if he gives them a loan with the condition that the borrower sells the lender's clothes for a salary less than what he takes from others, this is also considered riba. Or like what happens with many people who work in agriculture. They take a loan. The one who gives them the loan says, I give you this loan, you give it back to me. And when you harvest your field, oh, you give it back to me when you harvest your field with the condition that you sell me the yield with a price less than the price that you sell to others. This this is a kind of riba. So many among the transactions that occur nowadays are not in compliance with the rules of the religion. They are prohibited. For example, like the transaction of the insurance that we talked about. This is why everyone who wants to be accepted by Allah, who wants to be safe in this world and hereafter, who wants his religion would be intact, who wants his religion to be intact, he needs to learn different dealings before being involved in them. He takes this knowledge from someone knowledgeable and trustworthy, someone who cares about the religion state of you, the student. And Nawawi said it is haram for you to ask for religious fatwas other than an eligible, trustworthy person. He needs to have two criteria, to be knowledgeable and to be trustworthy, because the ignorant cannot give you a proper answer. He does not know how the answers. right? Is he going to tell you about the proper answers? And the one who is not trustworthy, you do not trust him with money. How would you trust him with your religion? This is why it's not permissible for one to ask about the religious answers other than the eligible, trustworthy person. Muhammad ibn Sirin, who was among the great followers of the companions, a big scholar mujtahid, very pious person among the followers of the companions, said, "The religious knowledge, this is knowledge. Sorry, the religious knowledge, this is the religion, the judges of the religion. So do not take that from anyone." So check the person whom you are talking, who you are taking this knowledge. This is taken only from a trustworthy, knowledgeable person. And this is a statement of Ibn Sirin. It's narrated in Muslim in the introduction of his book, As-Sahih. So the way to acquire knowledge is to learn it from a scholar, from a knowledgeable person, whether by hearing the information from the scholar, so he says it from the teacher, or by reading on him. So you read the information, he hears it, and he agrees with it by this way or the other way. And the scholars, of course, explain to the student the matters that he does not understand. Just a person reading a book by himself is not the way of the scholars. Sheikh Abdullah, he learned Arabic grammar from a sheikh, and when he went to the sheikh of the sheikh, which was about a 20-day walking trip, to also learn Arabic grammar. So this is the way you acquire the knowledge. One reason among the one reason among the reasons why nowadays many people pervert the rules of the religion is because they do not acquire the knowledge properly. This way, it's because, you know, because of them not acquiring it in the proper way, they pervert the judgment, the rules. So to acquire knowledge, one has to put effort. If one does not put effort, and at the end, he does not want to go to the sessions of knowledge, rather, at the end of the day, he wants to sit while he's relaxed, drinking a cup of juice, coffee, holding a book, watches TV. This is not how you acquire knowledge of the religion. The Muslim scholars said that the one who relies only on reading books would not be called a scholar or muhaddith, or like rather he would be called a suhafi. Suhafi means someone who reads papers, and that's all. So among the scholars, okay, so Jabir ibn Abdullah, one of the great famous companions, he heard about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and he did not hear it from the ones who heard it from the Prophet. He knew that all those who heard it from the Prophet ﷺ died except for one. And this one companion who was still alive and heard this hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, he lived in Egypt. So Jabir was in Al-Medina. So he knew about that. So he rode his camel and he went towards Egypt. He traveled, he got there, he asked about this companion, where does he live, until he reached him. And when he reached him, he said, Assalamu alaikum. The companion answered, Wa alaikum assalam. Jabir said, there is a hadith that you heard from the Prophet. I heard everyone that heard it from him died except for you. Can I hear it from you? He said, yes. He mentioned the hadith to him. When he finished, Jabir said, Assalamu alaikum, and he went back to Al-Medina. So he did not even take a rest. He did not stay in Egypt for any longer time. No, just that. He went all the way to hear the hadith from the one who heard it from the Prophet ﷺ. So, do you think this was a waste of time? No, this is a clever thing to do to be more sure about the religious information that you get. And this story is narrated in Bukhari in a book other than Al-Sahih. So the one who wants to learn how to recite Quran, it's not enough for him to read it alone or after an MP3 player. Either the teacher recites and the student hears, and then the student recites while the teacher hears his recitation. If he confirms what he is reciting, then he knows that he has acquired the knowledge of what he recited, what the teacher confirmed for him, right? That's what he knows that he recited. Or, and this is better, the student starts reciting while the teacher is listening. Then the teacher corrects. If there are corrections needed to be done. And once the teacher confirms for him his recitation, the student knows that he's okay with what he recited. Those are two ways to learn the recitation of the Quran. If he just listens to the teacher without reciting on the teacher, this is not enough. If he recites alone, this is not enough. If he just listens to a tape, this is not enough. He needs to recite on someone knowledgeable who would correct him if he makes mistakes and confirms his recitation. So some people do not need for themselves to acquire details about. So okay, so some people do not need for themselves to acquire details about many transactions that take place because they are not involved in them. For themselves, they do not need. But the one who is involved needs to acquire that before getting involved in those transactions, such as hiring, selling, renting. So among the scholars, another scholar among the Salaf inherited a sum of money and like a house. So since he did not work at a job, he spent every day a little amount of that money they inherited. This money was enough for him for the rest of his life. So he inhabited a room in that house. And when that room was destroyed, he moved to another room. Then, when that room was destroyed, he moved to another room until he died. And he did not fix anything. So these people are detached from the world. Some people live all their life without having to earn a living. For example, one of his relatives depends on him. Not because this person is lazy. We're not talking about that because some people are lazy. They don't want to work because they are lazy. So here we're talking about because this person, he is concerned about something else. His heart is attached about worshiping Allah Ta'ala. Now, if there is no one spending on him and he needs to support his wife, if he's married or the like, then he needs to work to do something about that. He cannot ignore it. So, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a man, his heart was attached to the masjid. He was there worshiping Allah Ta'ala a lot. His brother used to support him. One day, the brother told the Prophet ﷺ that my brother does not work. I'm supporting him and he does not work with me. He's all the time in the masjid. The Prophet ﷺ said, which means, maybe Allah is giving you the sustenance because of what you do to your brother. So, on one hand, if someone has to support certain people, one or more persons, the obligatory supports, and he neglects doing that, then he is committing an enormous sin. The Nabi ﷺ said, which means it is enough as a sin for one to neglect supporting the obligatory support to those whom he is obligated to support. Meaning, if that person did not have any other sin, this is a serious enough sin by itself. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay, let us say tahleel and surah ala nabi. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل محمد. Okay, I forgot. I blanked. Okay. Allah knows best. يلا السلام عليكم.